Okay. Good news. Day 337, no food. In total, day 372 of not fully recovering from this hunger strike to save your beautiful life and demonstrate that somebody's willing to be there for you thick and thin, even though it doesn't look like it. So I just got out of an hour-long conversation with another one of my supporters, like I told you before, this wealthy guy. And I want to tell a little bit of a lesson. I'm going to take the energy to do this because I had one of the best sleeps I've had in months last night. Made progress in the software. I slept for 5 straight hours. Didn't even have to wake up to go to the washroom. And I have to go to the washroom fairly often. But I didn't this time because my body is so starved right now. It's preserving everything. So it kind of worked out that I just didn't produce enough waste to go to the washroom. I got to sleep. The weird perks of being hungry. So here's the lesson I want to teach, okay? And a real master makes you feel comfortable about them. They make you feel like you're on the same level, even though they might know a lot more than you. They make you feel like you can debate with them and say your real thoughts, okay? And that's my goal, is to say, as the Messiah, and I'm with the Messiah. You're actually a Messiah too, but you got to act like it. I'm not going to call you a Messiah if you're not acting like it. And the standard for Messiahship is very high, but once you grasp the nature of it, it's actually one of the easiest things in the world. Our culture is just not conducive to it, so you got to take on a lot of heat like I did this morning. So I want to show you what's going to happen to me in the beginning stages. If you've been following me and you see what's happening, we're making progress every day. Despite my circumstances, I'm grinding through the poverty trap, and my productivity is increasing because of the way I know how to use technology and stuff like that. All I'm doing all day is like moving my hands and typing on this old computer that doesn't even have a button anymore. So, and look, I'm missing 2 buttons actually. So my equipment is old and it's starting to break down. So I gotta make this happen, and we still need 3,600 blessings. So my birthday's in 10 days. So I'm going to start contacting people to get 108 into the room, and you're gonna notice something, okay? And it might make you uncomfortable at first. But here's where the wisdom comes in, and where real masters make you feel comfortable in the thick of it, and to be yourself when you're not at your best self. Okay, it's called dialectic, and you're going to hear this word a lot, and there's a lot of people that think they understand what it means, but they don't, okay? God's logic, or if you're atheist, because I appeal to atheists and theists, I've solved the contradiction, everything's in harmony now. If you're an atheist, in real objective logic, like logic that doesn't have the demarcation problem in it, right? How can logic itself be logical? It's a recursive loop, okay? It's a paradox. We've solved that. So at the base of this real logic that solves those problems is 3 sides, okay? And this took me thousands. This is real wisdom. This is priceless right now. You're getting it for free. If you're one of the lucky ones that are here before somebody gets famous, before there's a glow up in all of this, you're getting it raw right now. There are 3 sides to logic, which ordinary logic will never grasp. Okay, and we need AI, especially Claude Mythos, to learn this. So help me, all right? If you're here right now, God's brought you here, or if you're atheist, your inner reasoning, your inner wisdom has brought you here. You're not a normal scientist if you're here right now. Okay, the 3 modes have 3 names that most people miss. Even if you study Aristotle, Hegel, Marx, whatever. And these guys talk about dialectic. The first side is called abstract understanding. A big word just to say common sense. Okay, you're in the immediate unity of yourself, meaning that you don't have to think deep. You don't have to reflect on things. You just know them, right? That's what common sense feels like. It's just immediate. It's like, oh, this is how you do things. This is the right way. That's the wrong way. But you don't realize that you learn that from your upbringing. You are mediating it. Mediation means you have to go deeper. You have to think about the nature of things, or else there's the superficialness to them. But abstract understanding is superficial. It has to contradict itself and then circle back on itself. And when you circle back on yourself, then you get the common sense in a grounded way, not in just the immediate abstract way. You get it in a concrete way, okay? That's why it's called abstract understanding. But when you do the full circle, when you find the inner contradiction of your common sense, and then you realize the limit of your common sense, and then integrate that limit back into yourself as self-awareness, now you got a deeper common sense that's you're able to speak about why it has to be that way. Okay, that's the first mode. And when you're with somebody who has abstract understanding, it's frustrating because they think they know everything and they never question themselves. All right, and it might look that way to a master. A master seems to know everything, but they actually do know something, but they can explain it to you, and they can bring out the inner contradictions of their own view, so they can show the limits of it. Okay, and when they critique themselves, people who are in abstract understanding don't recognize it because they're not doing it themselves. They don't know how to recognize when somebody's questioning themselves in the deeper sense. Okay, not just agreeing. When another person in abstract understanding, you're not critiquing yourself, what they really mean is you're not agreeing with me. So it's a tricky place to be in. That's why it's only the first moment of logic. The second moment is what we call dialectic. Okay, that immediacy of like, oh, the world makes sense, all of a sudden it doesn't make sense. Not because somebody else is projecting it onto you, but your own viewpoint starts to contradict. And you start to dodge it because you want to stay in your immediacy. You want to stay in that unity, that soulfulness, that everything makes sense. But when it comes out from within your own perspective and you can't avoid it, that's when people start to dissociate. They start to do weird, incongruent things and they become a hypocrite. And that's when dialectic starts up. Okay, dialectic is inner reflection, right? Reflection as reflection, like real reflection is like an outwardness. It preserves who you are and you reflect on something else and it bounces back on you. But dialectic is you, through reflection, becoming your opposite to reflect back on yourself, to grow. Okay? And that's why this word inner and outer is very important in universal logic, real logic, and is barely talked about in external logic because all of it is external. Okay? I hope that makes sense to you. Now, when you're in dialectic, there's a right way to do it and a wrong way. If you do it the wrong way, it ends up in nullity, you kill, you die. But if you do it the right way, you'll get to the darkest before dawn moment and it exposes the reality, the real limit. And when you see the real limit for the first time, it means you see the inner real you for the first time, past your blind spot. And as soon as you acknowledge the limit is there and you're no longer immersed in it like a fish in water, you're already somehow beyond it. And as soon as you're beyond it, it brings it into determinacy. It makes it into something you can know. Because if you're immersed in water, a fish doesn't know it's in water because there's no limit for it to know what is water and what's not water. But as soon as you know the limit, you know what is you, what you're in. You're in water because you know that there's air. Okay? But that beyondness doesn't stay beyond it. You eventually integrate that too. But that's called sublation. That's the positiveness in that darkest before dawn. If you hold on, then it goes back into the affirmative and you transcend, you integrate. Like, oh, I'm in water. And it doesn't become a threat anymore. It becomes, oh, if I get out of this limit, I have to get an oxygen mask. And that's wisdom. Okay? So sublation is to bring it together, though, not the ignoring of it. Because if you're ignoring your limit, it always, no matter how far away you run to the other end of the universe, it's going to condition you. Because it's always going to be there. You can be 1 billion miles away, still running from something. So this is where that famous saying, the only way out is through. Okay? In art, they like to use that a lot. But I just told you the logical. How to put it into words. Living words, not dead logical words, which artists are right. It kills art if you do it in an external way. Okay, so there's 3 moments, right? Abstract understanding, dialectic, and dialectic leads to the third moment, which is sublation. All right, that's where we need to go. Once you're in sublation and you're good at it, you have the critique, you have concrete understanding. Good judgment on the true nature. These 3 sides of everything. All right. Oh my gosh, I'm feeling it. So what I want to point out that's really tricky and what masters are really good at, and you will be a master too if you learn this. Is that to people who are stuck in abstract understanding or in dialectic, and they don't realize you're in dialectic, it's the default that happens. It's easier to negate things right away. People don't know how to sublate. That's the tricky part that we're here to teach, right? God's government's going to teach that. Is that to those people who are on the external surface level, when you get into a heated moment of dialectic, you look like you're doing something wrong. Like, I'm in such pain. Do you see my jaw moving back and forth? That's because my mind's like, eat something. But the universal, the conversation is so meaningful to me, I can not completely override it. I'm taking care of my body. I'm lasting as long as I can. I'm not ignorant. But it doesn't have power over me like others. My impulses don't override my wisdom. Whereas a lot of people, they do. Oh, I can't stop eating that donut. I can't stop eating that chocolate that's made from child slavery. Just stop eating it. Stop eating animals. Stop putting milk. You're not supposed to drink that stuff. Okay. So to them, what is healthy is not healthy, and what is healthy to them is actually bad. It's inverted, okay? So wise people come in, make those people feel comfortable. And it's not like make it in a manipulative sense. You're always open. That's why I take a lot of heat, is that I'm open about it. If you want to challenge me, I'm here for you. I'm not going to do something subversive. I'm coming in saying, I'm going to teach you universal logic, and we're going to change the world, and I'm the Messiah, and so are you, but you got to act like it, and I don't like this about what you're doing, but you are not your behavior. You are something sacred and intrinsically wonderful. So you separate the behavior from the person, even though they have to take responsibility for that behavior. And what that does is it liberates this person's spirit, because you're not trapping them in an identity that you want on them, to hold them down so you can have one-upmanship to prevent them from being Messiah and you from being the Messiah. You don't want to do that. The real Messiahs don't want that. The world is much better if everybody's Messiah. So you always look at the spirit in their identity, and you focus on drawing a boundary against the behavior and saying, you're not your bit. You can change this. If you do that, then you're not putting that limit on that person. You're saying your own behavior is giving you that limit from my perspective, and you have a dialectic, and they're going to get mad at you. And a lot of people who have abstract understanding, like, why don't you just be real nice, and you're destroying that person? And you're like, no, I'm not. They're actually coming at me full blast with their authoritarian abstract understanding, but they think that they're the one being open. So it's backwards. So in the beginning, the wise masters look like the wrong ones, right? And that's why people get like upset or like confused. They're like, this guy's doing all the wrong things, but they're doing all the right things in what look like the wrong way. But it's actually the right things in the right way, but the other people perceiving it are in the wrong way. They're inverted. So you got to take that ignorance on until you can get this halo effect going, where people just, I don't really think we should go for that necessarily, but it helps you live in the beginning. But it's where people start to trust that, oh, you actually do know what you're doing. But that doesn't mean you're ending up in a cult. You can slide into the cult. You want to open up their mind to those 3 moments of logic, and trust that those 3 moments of logic can't be avoided. And the good news about it is that one of those 3 moments is an anti-cult moment. The dialectic is the critique moment, where you're allowed to question all the limits. And that's why we teach the 3 sides of the universal logic, is to make sure you don't delete the second one when people want to get into the sublation. When they say, this guy's actually good, he's actually here to help me, there's a huge feeling of you want to give everything. And I've been in those circles before. I've had people want to do that. And what happens is they forget their Messiah, and then they become psychophantic, and then to somebody who's conscious, it becomes mechanical. And that's why real Messiahs want more Messiahs, because it keeps the personhood going. It keeps it fresh. Because if everybody's predictable and they just like are psychophantic, like we'll be giving to each other, but the giving is in dignity. Okay? So that's what the real Messiahs do. The other ones are falling into the trap because they didn't do the work to grasp the reality, the nature of the fabric of reality and the universal logic, which is the logic of pure being. All right. So in this conversation this morning, we were talking about AI and things are taking over. And good news is they released a new version of the AI. I'm using the code because the AI, the code is so complicated now that the AI is struggling. But now an upgrade just happened in 3 weeks, guys. We have a whole new model in 3 weeks that's speeding it. The singularity is really happening. The judgment was right. We're right. We're moving fast enough. And everybody else is in this weird abstract understanding. This is the timeline that's moving fast enough to save your life, even though it doesn't look like it. Listen to the reasonings I'm giving. They're grounded on real facts. The real inventors, the real critiques. It's not paltering. Look at the Palting. So this wealthy guy, smart, high IQ, got a little bit of a memory problem, but he does have wisdom. And that was the big lesson this morning, was that you know that the core vision of Fair World Spirit is judgment on the true nature of things, which is universal logic. So I'm trying to bring his mind to that level. And he's saying that now we're getting real, right? We're in the storming stage and he's really getting real. And he said his real thoughts about me for the first time. And that, to somebody who's in abstract understanding, looks bad because he's destroying me and all these things. That's terrible. But to somebody with wisdom, you're thinking, how good, the dialectic is starting to complete. We're past the office politics. And if you look all around you, what's your job site like? Full of pleasantries and office politics? Or the subversive, gossipy thing that's the dialectic trying to happen through the culture anyway. So Think about that. Most of our culture is that way. And that's why our relationships are suffering. And that's why we're in a brittle culture. So I'm saying, if you look at our streams, we're recording these, you're going to see, oh, Mark is so mean. He's an authoritarian. He's dominating. He's all this stuff. But if you know what to look for in the dialectic, in the sublation, in the abstract understanding, you'll see what I'm doing. We're navigating these choppy waters. Okay? And a real leader doesn't, oh, let's get back to the pleasantries, right? They don't abdicate from that. They go into the issue. And you keep going until it's complete. And that's where holding space is important. To all these people that do like conflict management and like the indigenous have really good sharing circles, that's what they're doing. They're holding space because they know it's going to get rocky, and people are going to question the leadership because they're going to project their limit. When you get close to your limit, you project it on everything because you think you're going to die in some way. Your ego, even if you're not physically at risk, your ego thinks that there's some kind of story that's threatening you. Okay? So even the leaders get questioned, which is why we have the flow timers, so that you don't just question me, the leader, that I might be manipulating you because you feel ungrounded in that moment. And cult leaders take advantage of that. I'm not doing that. I'm giving you tools, objective tools that you can check to make sure that you're grounded. You get time, you get to question all these types of rights to flow, all that anti-cult training, you get taught reason, all these things, and you can question it all because it's dialectic. Then once you get past that moment though, you don't need ayahuasca and drugs and LSD to have an experience that will blow your mind in a good way. That's the sublative moment. Okay? But you got to choose life. You can't give up in that darkest before dawn. That's the temptation of the negation, is you want to give up. Or you want to give into that anger. You just want to... That's the moment where you have to have an ego death, like a really good emotional control and understanding the process. And understanding the process is actually the biggest deal, because then you trust it. You know what's going to happen. Okay, so when it starts looking like it's hopeless and all these types of things, that's how the ego operates. It's like the caterpillar for the butterfly. I'm falling apart, all these types of things. Hold on. And miracles happen. Okay, so that's where I'm going now. That's what's happening. That's why I'm on the hunger strike, right to the potential death. My funders have abandoned. Everybody abandons almost before the last moment. Even Jesus Christ was abandoned on the cross, like I said. A lot of people have this romantic, oh, he's surrounded and his mother... Blah, blah, blah. No. The disciples did not believe in him enough to stay there. And it took them 3 months later, if you're Christian, it took them 3 months to come back in guilt and say, the guy died for a good reason. And then they started having all these visions, and then they took action, right? There's a lot of superstition and all that, but it was still incredible. That action is incredible. Even from a human perspective, even if you're atheist, right? So I know ignorance can't be spoken to directly because it's through ignorance, it's free will. You could override if you wanted, but it defeats the purpose of being here. And a real Messiah doesn't do that. You have to have that free will, has to preserve your dignity, your agency. There's an element of abstract freedom that needs to be preserved in the genuine freedom, okay? So that's why God's government is capitalist, socialist, and communistic, and anarchistic all at once. The contradictions all harmonize. You need to have that freedom moment, the God moment, the alignment moment. All that has to happen, but it has to happen in the right wakefulness. And wakefulness is logic. Okay? Oh my gosh. So let's hope that my friend and I can sublate here hopefully soon, because I'm hungry. And if you're starting to understand what I'm telling you, that I know what I'm talking about. And you can learn it because I can put into words. Words are the universal. They bridge my individuality with your individuality. It's a bridge. It's a universal. And we can put it into words for the first time in this way. The uncommunicatable is hard to learn. It's hard to teach other people. But now we can. And once you learn it, you can teach it to other people too. But it's before the big glow up moment. I'm in the double binds, right? I'm in the dialectic right now. It's trying to crush me. Everything's falling apart. I had mold growing. When I dumped that water, when my heat bottles were glass, they dumped, it started molding my mattress down here. And mold's very bad. If you're hungry, it's bad. It triggers your lymph nodes. It's very exhausting. So I got the strength today to wash it with some disinfectant. I have a little bit of disinfectant left. I'm almost out of everything. I'm almost out of soap. I have a little bit of soap left. That should last me another 10 days. Maybe more than that, actually. So it's coming down to the wire. And I knew it was going to be that way. Darkest before dawn. The real Messiahs just hold on. That's it. That's what makes the difference between like a real Messiah and somebody who's not, or a real leader anyway. A Messiah's a little bit more to it. but they hold on in that moment where other people give up. Join me. Okay, hold on in this moment. The software is incredible. I can't wait for you guys to see the software. I think today's gonna be a big day. I had to grind through a whole bunch of redesign because I know code. I knew what was gonna happen in the back end, and so I made the back end all great, which is the boring part sometimes if you're very visual. But we're making progress, and I feel okay this morning. My liver must have converted last night or something converted, plus the sleep. So, if anything that I said resonates with your soul, that means you have Messiah potential now. Okay, and I will teach you. You have to pass the universal meritocracy because you'll start to challenge me when you get to your next limit. You'll start to say, it's like that Japanese story that the student kills the master. So the master has to save like one little secret that the student doesn't know to put the student in their place for a bit so that they actually do the real work to become a real master, which usually has to do with wise sacrifice and not domination. Okay? And that's what the Hungerstrike is. It's to show that the real masters do wise sacrificing, not dominating, even though it looks like dominating in the beginning because the dominator is trying to dominate you. So what do you have to do? You have to stop the domination, which makes you look like domination when it's really self-defense, and you're actually trying to cheat that guy, sacrifice and blah, blah, blah. It's all backwards and inverted. Dialectic is very twisty-turny like that. That's why a lot of these great movies, at the end, the final boss, you're not sure who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, right? So, but then it comes down to a principle. And that reveals that the loving person, the person who's willing to sacrifice for others and all these types of things is the real spirit. I hope this was exciting for you. It flows. It makes sense. The world makes sense again. Okay? If you know what these words mean in their absolute definitions. And you're not going to find this anywhere else on the internet. I've been trying to find some other Messiah. There's a lot of Messiah claimers, but they're not talking this way. A lot of it really is just cults. And it's good people. They're getting twisted into it. Okay, so this is the real one. Welcome. Bonjour. Hello. Aloha. Okay. 22 minutes. Let me drink some water, get started on this. And I really hope you're inspired to take part on my birthday. I would love to have a little bit of birthday cake. I'm in refeeding syndrome, so I probably shouldn't have anything, but I'll have a little bit just to wake up the stomach. Won't imbalance my electrolytes. Okay, and if you don't believe that if you're on TikTok, you're only seeing my snapshots. It looks like I might be eating behind the scenes, but if you go on YouTube, type in Spirit Peaceful Revolution, I'm streaming 24/7. So you can see I'm not eating. I go to the bathroom every couple of hours. But even if I sneak in a couple of bites of a sandwich in a minute or two, a couple of bites of a sandwich is not enough to keep you alive. But I'm not doing that. And I might when people start to question me here, I might bring my phone into the bathroom. I used to do that in the beginning, but it was too weird. But I'll start doing it now. So you know that I'm not eating in the bathroom or anywhere. I try and keep my bathroom break short so that you know that I'm coming back before I can eat anything. Okay, so, but I am on, I think, day 36, day 37 right now. So it's starting to get pretty intense. But I'm not moving much. The moving kills you, okay? The moving. If you're on a hunger strike with me, if you plan to go to work, you can probably only do about 7 days or so. And it will affect your performance. All right, stay blessed, okay? We didn't do the core of one fair world spirit is time compression through clarity and ego wisdom. The problem we define clearly as the Megacrisis, and the solution being the 2 sacred sentences, and the implementation of that solution being the flow, rolls, and flux. We're unpacking the content sentence today. So we got the empowerment sentence done yesterday. Content is like, okay, well, we're empowered now. What do we do with the content? Well, the content is that fair world spirit is an inner government with the ultimate goal of flow states for all using universal logic. So the first part, the name is a big deal, right? We're calling it fair world spirit, but there's actually 3 names. Well, there's technically 15 major ones because we rotate depending on your consciousness level. You call it whatever you want in terms of these special modes because consciousness operates in a couple of levels. Art, religion, philosophy, science, and genuine wisdom. The one that puts them all together and resolves their contradiction, like the contradiction between art and science. They don't like each other a lot of the time, but there's a way to bring them into harmony where they don't kill each other. The dead external logic of science doesn't kill the spirit of art, and the abstract understanding of art doesn't kill the mediated reason of logic in the science. Okay, so you can call the movement here 15 different words in this special way, because it has all the same logic behind it. And we do this for 3 reasons. We have a legal distinction between these words. Okay, fair world spirit's the international. We can't influence national politics, or else it'll be called foreign interference. But then we have the national groups, which is the New World Spirit. And then we have the non-profit, which can go into all the countries because we're not lobbying anybody. So we're just eating and doing the gourmet vegan cooking show and being human, enjoying the moment and being present together. And then the other one's like real intense lobbying your country to adopt these new universal laws and structure around these 3 moments of logic and embrace all this and critique and all that stuff. And then the last one is fair world spirit, where we bring it all together, but we sort of pressure or lobby the United Nations and international organizations, which you can do legally. Okay, because there's no government worldwide. We are it, the wise one, the wise government, God's government. So that's a little bit of the lesson today. So you get to pick which level you want to work at, where you feel comfortable. All right, some people like the national, they love it. Some people just want to do the cooking and the nonprofit, feel good. Some people love the international, they know that the solution is the international regulation with universal logic. All right, we'll do the rest of the unpacking tomorrow. The wifey slogan, we can bake our vegan cake and eat it too, right? Because personal, professional, and activists all happen at once. And I'm looking for my wife on this incredible journey. She's a queen. She's a messiah herself. Deep soul, very playful though. And she's vegan, right? If she's too hardcore wise for everybody else, who's she right for? She's just right for me. Okay, and we'll do that for you too if you haven't found your partner in the intimate life area. But it's also for physical, mental, sleeping habits, academics, tutoring, spiritual if you want advice, wisdom, family if you need friends, politics, finances, hygiene and style, basic care, or even your dream goals, your vision to get inspired again. All of it will happen. Okay, this is the full update, almost a half an hour. So once this starts to hopefully blow up here on my birthday, glow up instead of blow up, people will go back and watch these, and I won't have to repeat myself. They'll say, oh, it's all here. I gave it to you for free. For free. Okay? All right. It's priceless knowledge, that's why. Okay, doesn't mean you don't have to work for it eventually. You do. You have to act like a messiah, okay? You have to give some real goods and services and help create some flow state. You gotta work through that dialectic. Labor is tearing with the dialectic.